The rule of law. As I understand it, the rule of law involves a set of meta principles that say how the legal system should function. The laws should be consistent, they should be promulgated, they should be relatively unchanging, they should be public so they can fill their ex ante role, so that they can guide behavior. Okay. If what I say about how people think about the law is correct, then we are rather badly fulfilling the functions of the rule of law functions. First, the law has not been promulgated in any way that has captured much attention by the citizens. Paul Robinson and I did a study where we searched out states that had deviations in their legal code. So one state, there had a duty to rescue law. Another state had a law that said you needed to report the presence of a suspected felon if you knew where the presence was. All right, these are all deviant laws. Most states don't hold them. And we then studied the college staffs in those various states and asked them what the law, among other things, what the law of their state was. And to give you the answer quickly, they didn't know. That is, some guessed correctly that their state was a state in which there was a duty to rescue, but the reason they guessed it was because their own moral code suggested duty to rescue. It wasn't that they were getting it right for the state, they just happened to get lucky. So people are not aware of laws that the legislatures thought were significant enough, so they deviated from the model penal code. Thanks, Nick. What else? What does consistent mean? The legal code says the rule of law should be consistent. Well, on one hand, it means internal consistency of a logical sort, and certainly the model penal code has greatly improved that situation. Our laws are now more consistent across states and within states than they were before. But consistent for me means consistent with the moral intuitions of the community, because the community is generating their perceptions of what the law is from those moral intuitions. So if you pass a law, if the legislature passes a law and criminalizes a regulatory offense, at a minimum they owe some conversation to the citizens of the state about why they do this. If they can make a convincing demonstration that it indeed, they're doing it because it fits the case of a infliction of harm, then the community will be persuaded. But there is that requirement. I would set up that requirement to actually have that kind of discourse with the community, and as I indicate, we rarely see it happening. Okay. There's more that can be said about rule of law, but let me make some slashing statements and then conclude. A couple closing comments. First, this is odd. I'm making a utilitarian argument, an argument that if the legal code of the community fits the moral intuitions of the governed, it will attract respect. The community will see it as doing what it should be doing and not doing what it shouldn't be doing. And they will therefore want to voluntarily give their obedience to it. It will be a guide for them. I'm making an argument absolutely parallel to Tom's argument about procedural justice. Tom has shown in a number of impressive studies that if the procedures by which justice is inflicted are respectful in their treatment of citizens, then people, by and large, are willing to adhere to the system in which that respectful treatment is embedded. Now I'm saying if the treatment is not just respectful, but morally appropriate would be a way of putting it, it's easier for citizens to obey the law. Now, I am obviously, and I'll mark it once again, not saying that legal codes always must be driven from the moral codes of the community. We have known various times in which heretics have been burned at the stake, and so on. Simply saying that it would be appropriate for the legal codes for those who promulgate the codes to engage in the dialogue with the community that shows why certain behaviors are inappropriate. So drunk driving has become criminalized in the minds of most of the citizens. How has that come about? That has come about not so much via the legislatures, it's come about via Mothers Against Drunk Driving, so on, engaging in very visible campaigns that indicate how this is a harm and what horrors drunk driving can bring apart. So they've changed the moral perceptions of the community that now takes drunk driving much more seriously than it used to. Last comment. In philosophical circles, there was once the notion of natural law. I hold these truths to be self-evident. Or the supreme being has given me these beliefs. A natural law, that it comes from some source, not entirely within individuals. It is, to use the relevant phrase, natural rights, natural laws are pre-institutional. You don't need human institutions to pass them. They're natural and they're timeless. They were true yesterday and they'll be true tomorrow. Kind of natural law perspective, which I think is not in good odor at the moment in philosophical circles. And yet, it strikes me that when I'm describing people think about the legal system and their occasional puzzled when we ask them, well, okay, but yes, murder is bad. I see you're saying that. Why? Their answer is, well, it just is. I have nothing more to say to you. Your question is very strange. It's a kind of natural law flavor to how people are thinking about the core, what we might call the core of the criminal rules against transgressions that the community regards as moral transgressions. And with that, I'll stop.